I think that Better Call Saul is one of the best crafted TV shows on at the moment. It's one of the best of all time, and with a culture that's shifting the way that it consumes its media from that of the big screen to that of the small screen on people's homes, I think there's a lot that we can learn from it. Better Call Saul premiered on February 8th, 2015, and is the spin-off of the acclaimed Breaking Bad. Don't know if you've heard of her. The show, now in its 6th and final season, follows everyone's favourite lawyer as he transforms from a shady guy with a few morals who is constantly rescued by those around him, to a guy who's made so many wrong decisions that there's no one left to catch him when he falls. At the time of recording, there are only 2 episodes left, and honestly, any fan expectations that I have had have just been thrown out the window the last few weeks, with the writing team making it their mission to subvert all audience expectations but still honor the character story that they've been telling for the past 6 years. As always though, online, many people have expressed their dissatisfaction with this, complaining that it's dropped the ball mainly due to its final episodes not taking the shape that previous episodes might have indicated, surrounding the most stupidly controversial casting change in human history. Jeff, I watched the first 5 seasons just before going into season 6, and I didn't even notice. I get it. There's a slight shift in performance. I see it, but geez, it ain't as jarring as you're making it out to be, Twitter. I suppose that's my first problem, being on Twitter. But as fans of TV, we're constantly predicting things. We love what we watch and we're passionate about it. It's just what we do. We talk with people in their basements, chatting about what we think is going to happen next. And when it doesn't go the way that we think, we get weirdly mad. I'm not quite sure when this change happened. I remember when I was a kid, I used to love the twists and turns of TV shows, and I still do. But now I get this weird satisfaction when I'm right, and this weird anger when I'm wrong. Maybe it's some form of entitlement. I don't know where this all kind of came from. But at the bottom line is it takes me longer to process things and figure out whether I like it or not if it's different to what I thought was going to happen. It's weird. I don't get it either. But it's important you got to give yourself that time to process. I didn't like The Last Jedi that much when I first watched it, but when I watched it a couple of days later, I found a lot more that I liked about it, because I kind of, I knew the direction it was going. It's like I'm scared. It's like we're all scared for places, for this media to take us into ways that we didn't think it would go. There's different ways that shows can go about this. In the final season of Game of Thrones, we saw the Night King finally invade Westeros. I think it's Westeros, right? It's not been that long since Game of Thrones. Anyways, spoiler alert, the battle didn't go the way that we all assumed. The entire show up until that point had been building Jon Snow up to have one final battle with the spooky boy Night King. So when Arya Stark was the one to deliver that fatal blow, it caused a lot of disgruntlement from the fans, and even from the Kit Harington himself. I was pissed that it wasn't me killing the Night King, innit? I would have bet you thousands. He was probably just kidding when he said this, but I can't help but think maybe there's a little bit of truth to that, especially, it's the character, and it's where he felt his arc was going, where the climax of his arc was going to be. It's, yeah, there's some truth there. Anyways, this was a decision that was clearly there just to shock fans.
I hope to kind of avoid the expected, and Jon Snow has always been the hero, the one who's been the savior, but it just didn't seem right to us for this moment.
Arya's arc was never really attached to this. It was more so attached to the characters at King's Landing. It was a change in the storytelling purely there to be a surprise. But it's not just Thrones that does this sort of thing. Oh no, Star Wars does the exact same thing just to satisfy its fans.
Do you want to know the truth about your parents?
They were nobody.
You are a Palpatine.
Some of these huge movies and TV shows really have no idea where they're going, and it really shows, but it's not necessarily that uncommon, nor is it a bad thing if it's the right people making those decisions. Back to Better Call Saul, a show which feels like every moment has been thought out from the beginning, just as Breaking Bad felt. People constantly argue online that the current era of Doctor Who is tragic because Chris Chibnall confessed that he made it all up on the go, blah 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 blah. But that's totally normal. I'm not gonna go into Who here. You can listen to that on my silly podcast. Speaking of pods, every week a new episode of Better Call Saul is followed by the Better Call Saul Insider podcast, a podcast where a bunch of people, cast and crew and editors and writers, directors, actors, they get together to talk about the making of the latest episode. On the podcast, showrunner, creator, writer, director of Breaking Bad and co-creator of Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan, has been very open and transparent about the way that the Better Call Saul writers' room works.
It tickles me to no end. It always has. Once we got a rhythm going on Breaking Bad, it tickles me when people, maybe about the highest praise there is, it tickles me when people say, oh my God, did you guys know how it was all going to fold together and tie together? Because, we didn't. I mean, and I think that goes for, if we knew, it kind of presupposes if we knew it was all going, we would have had it all figured out on day one, and it would have robbed us of some very fun times and sometimes very frustrating times in the writer's room where we're trying to figure out what happens. Because it's the fundamental question, what happens next? But when it feels to the audience like we had it all figured out from the get-go, that's the best feeling, because I can assure you we didn't, and because, starting with Kim, just like before her, Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul playing Jesse Pinkman, we didn't know how great Ray Seahorn was just how utterly wonderful she was going to be to work with. So, at the beginning of it all, we didn't even know there'd be a Kim. We knew there was, in the first episode, there was this blonde woman with a ponytail who's sitting next to Howard Hamlin. Howard Hamlin was the important one. Mm-hmm. Kim was maybe someone we could do something with, maybe not.
Kim doing this, it's not you. Okay, you would not be okay with it. Not in the cold light of day.
Wouldn't I?
The show changes direction. Sure, it's good to have a plan, to roughly know where you're going, but hearing that Kim Wexler was never going to be such a big role blew my mind. It's just the way the show naturally developed. For me, it's that twisted, toxic love story that is the bread and butter of the show, and if you were wondering, is where I think Saul or Jimmy or Gene's comeuppance will lie. I think him being killed by the cartel or anything similar will be a disservice to his character, and that the way for the show to conclude in its most satisfying way possible will be for Jimmy to have one final conversation with Kim. Whether it's in his Breaking Bad timeline or with Gene, or maybe where we left off in 609, it's where I think the show should go from a character perspective. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll be angry about it. So, what the heck was this video all about? It's about the beauty of flying by the seat of your pants whilst writing TV. You want to know where you're going, but you don't want to restrict yourself to it. You want to head in a direction, but allow yourself the flexibility to explore the things that feel natural. You shouldn't do it for the fans or for the shock value, you should do it because it's right for the character. The fact that Bob Odenkirk himself has become a producer on the show really does highlight how much the writing team care about his character. Bob knows Saul more than anyone. I have a lot of thoughts on Better Call Saul. I think it's an incredible show. I really do love it. I love the storytelling. I love the info that I can get from the podcast to improve my own writing and directing abilities. I think it's one of the best shows, if not the best show of all time, and you guys all should be watching it. Guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I want to do more of this shiz. I always say that, don't I? Subscribe, and that's all I got to say on that. Oh, and Doctor Who podcast, if that's what you're into. Thanks.